think I'm live here. Welcome to Mighty Monday. And as always, I've been having a guest again. So I'm excited to have Judith on with me this evening and what she's going to be sharing. And I hope you've had a great week and a great Monday so far. I know I have. It's been a little busy Monday, but and my family is getting ready for our trip. So I think I've shared on here with my audience here that I've been getting ready for our trip. We're in Texas right now, going to our Canadian home. And so we're doing last minute things, packing up. And the next Monday, I will be on the road, but I'm hoping I'll go ahead and, be able to interview my guest, and it should go fun. We'll be somewhere along the path. And okay, I'm excited about this. And welcome, Judith, this evening. And so how are you? You've had a good and busy day too, right?
Yes, I have. Yeah, it was a busy day. I took the girls out and we did some shopping with 5 girls that are the age of 16 all the way down to 3. It's an interesting feat.
Yeah. I know my girls. And did you go like thrift stores and anything? My girls love that. And yeah.
Right. We went to a couple thrift stores. We also did some grocery shopping and then I did some garden planting today too. So yeah, it's a busy day.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. So you can go ahead and tell us a bit more about your family, because I know you're a mom of 11. You have one more than I do. So that's neat.
First of all, I want to thank you for being on my show, or letting me be on your show. I really appreciate the opportunity of getting to meet you. We corresponded a little bit with setting this up, and it's great. Yeah. It's great to meet you and get to see you live. I'm Judith Zimmerman, and Ray, my husband, and I live in Montana, and which you may be going like 4 miles from our place when you're going to Canada.
We were talking, so I've told my husband, and so we're counting and stopping to see you guys if it's okay. Okay. We've already got that on the, if it was going to work out with your schedule, what you guys, Pat. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. And as was mentioned before, we have 11 children. 9 of them live with us at home. And we have a son that lives local, a married son, and his 2-month-old. And also a daughter that lives in El Paso with her husband, close to the military base where he's stationed down there. He works down there. And so they reside down there. And what? And so my topic today is on being intentional. Because there was somebody that told me years ago that all right. Okay, now you can go down. Now you can go down. Ask Janelle.
Uh-oh. You need something?
And she's the youngest, and she had went to sleep when we were on the way home, so she took that 10-minute nap, and then then it totally messes with them.
Yeah, I know what that can be like.
But there was something that was told me a long time ago, that do the best that you know now, and when the time comes, more will be shown to you. And that's helped me a lot in life, because sometimes we feel like, well, what could I be doing more? What could I be doing more? And so we live in this like stress of not knowing a lot. And we don't live out the fullness of living life intentionally, because we're always wondering what's around the corner. And the days just like zoom by. The day almost like takes over us when we wonder, what could I be doing more, instead of being in control of what the day is. And that numerous years ago, there was a book that I read that was called The 12-Week Year. And he talks about getting as much done being intentional, getting about as much done as in 12 weeks as you can in a year. And I just got an email from him lately, and it says, when you are intentional with your time, you know which activities to engage in with and which ones to pass on. When you're
Okay.
intentional, you are more conscious of the actions you engage. You willingly employ a discipline and rigor to which you organize and structure your day and week. Your activity is driven by your goals and plans. In the end, you work your plan instead of the day working you. Intentionality is your secret weapon in the war of mediocrity. And that's by Brian Marone. And
Okay.
you know, that's what happens when you set your day with intentional and just let the day take over you. Because, you know, I've had plenty of those days when I had my day plan and I could be like really productive. And then we could have a couple productive days and, you know, you just, something happens and it just takes you out of that rhythm and you're like, and then the next couple of days you're like, the day just takes you somewhere. You know, it's
Yeah.
almost like the end of the day, you're like, well, what did I really accomplish today? You know, I had to accomplish something, but yeah, it's but then when you get frustrated enough with that day running you, and then you're like, you know, I really need to sit down and, you know, take this again and decide where we're going. Because for a family our size, when I'm not living intentionally, it affects a lot of people.
Okay, for
And
sure.
it's like being a ship, you know.
Mm.
If you have only like 2 or 3 people or 4 people, it's like a little rowboat or a little speedboat, you know. You can turn that thing and it turns really quick. But when you got a group of people, it's almost like a um those big ships, you know, that have the land and sea containers on, you
Mhm.
know, it's going to
Mhm.
take a
Yeah.
while to get the whole thing turned around,
Yeah.
change directions here.
Okay.
So it's,
Oh.
I have seen both sides, and my goal is to definitely keep on having more intentional days than days running me. Because it makes so that the children feel more, they know more what's going. You
Mhm.
know, it gives them that peace in the house. It's they know what to expect when the
No.
day's
Yeah.
running you. Was then when they tend to, you know, flip on the video more or something like that, because it's like they lost their sense of direction.
Mhm.
And so, you know, intentionality is so key.
Mhm.
And even with homeschooling, I found that a lot. I have listened to a lot of audios, been on like online conventions and stuff by a couple called Oliver and Rachel DeMille. They do what they call leadership. It's leadership education is their website, and or was previously Thomas Jefferson Education. And I followed them for quite a few years, and their focus was on to inspire your children to have a love of learning. They want to see that in you
Mhm.
because you're setting the example. And if you're always learning, you sort of put that into your child just because they're in your presence and you're constantly learning new things, and they see you
Mhm.
are not settling.
Mhm.
And so that was one of the things that they and I have found that happened a lot. Just keeping your mind open to new things. And we do school a little bit more on what they would call the tradition, the unschooled. We do
Mhm.
some school books, but a lot of it is learned through life. And that is um, when before we moved out here 10 years ago, we went down to Washington, D.C. And, you know, our children talk about that to this day. That's 12
Oh.
years ago.
Yeah.
And they talk about going to the Jefferson, you know, to the Jefferson Monument and the Lincoln Monument, and going to and going to the Capitol, where one of them, when we were getting ready to go through the metal detectors, realized that they had a knife in their pocket. And so they set it, they went to one of the trash cans and set it like underneath the trash can at the end. And when we came back out, it was still there, but they remember that. And when they read it in their book now, they're like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then they'll rattle on to this whole thing of, you know, what happened over that time. And so just reading in a book wouldn't carry the depth that experience does.
Yeah.
Also,
Life learning.
yes, absolutely. Also, another thing was, one time I was out working in the garden and I saw this snake that was swallowing a frog. So we called everybody out and we watched the snake swallow the frog. You know, we saw it with a snake with it, you know, the feet of the frog are like out the side and it's trying to hold on for dear life until, you know, and it's clawing and looking for, hoping for this chance to get away up until the last toes disappear. And, you know, our children never forget that.
Yeah.
So, you know, you could read it in a book, but it wouldn't be the same as seeing it happen. Seeing it happen. So that's one of the things that we've done a lot of, is look to see what resources are around your area that you could learn about. You know, we have right close to our place is one of the natives' buffalo jumps, where they would chase the buffaloes off the end, and you know, that was how they gathered them for the winter. And so, you know, we've gone to the information center there. We've taken friends to the buffalo jump. You know, you see how far down it is and stuff like that, and they'll never forget that.
Oh, that is interesting.
You know,
yeah, we've read about that in the books, and we did watch a documentary too recently on just the buffaloes. My oldest son had heard about this documentary I think it was quite new actually. So he thought he stayed with us this winter, and he's like, the kids should watch this. It's very educational, and it was. It really took you right from, you know, the early days of when the immigrants came over here. I mean, all the way, and then what happened to the buffaloes. It was really sad how they really were getting rid of them and killing them to be able to turn this into cities, and well, the trains coming and all of that stuff. But I thought that was really interesting.
But by the way, when you're coming up, you can actually see the buffalo jump from the 15 when you're coming up, and it's right off of one of the exits, like, I don't know, maybe 3-4 miles. So but anyway, when people ask me about homeschooling, one of the things that I've told them is decide what you want your children to leave home knowing. And then you work backwards from that. Okay, what do you want your child to know? Do they have to, like, 2 years, we took a sign language class because there's a deaf and blind school in the local town here. And they were offering, you know, a class for a certain amount per person. And so a lot of deaf and blind children come here from all over the state because there's not very many deaf and blind schools. And so they have them come in and stay at dorms here. And so we have also we're on a military base town. And so people come in and they come to church and their children are deaf or something like that. So we went for 2 years, we went and took a sign language class. One of our daughters wanted to do drama. So we found a homeschool group that one of the moms was teaching drama. So she played Alice and the Looking Glass, and things like that. So, you know, it gets him involved in what they're interested in. One of our other daughters is really good at painting art. So we put her through a class at the local art museum place where they were teaching classes. And, you know, they learned so much because that's what they were interested in.
Mhm.
And so it's like know what you want them to know when they leave home, and then work backwards. Do we need a book? Could we enroll them in a class locally? Do we take them to some educational thing, this year? Because as a parent, your job is to equip them for life. So you want to know what you're equipping them for. And also, that is one of the reasons that I sort of we just sort of the unschooling thing, was because I sort of struggled in school with a lot of like English and, those things that you're like, am I ever going to need this? So that's one of the things we like to focus on, is keep the love of learning. Then should your child become a lawyer, or should your child become, a doctor or whatever, they're still interested in learning. There's been, numerous parents that I've talked to, moms and stuff, and that their children were raised in the public school system. And they said, the day that they left school, they haven't touched a book for 3 years. So, you want to keep them wanting to learn.
Okay, the
And
love of
you set
for
you
learning.
set an example by wanting to learn yourself, and then that inspires them to learn too. So, and then another thing is how are you going to teach them? How do you teach fractions? Put them in the kitchen. Double the recipe.
Mhm. Okay, so that doesn't have to just be taught in the math book. That
No,
just like
no.
that. So
In
do you feel
you can in the math book, and they'll get the answers right. But for some of my children, being their learning style is different, they remember more if they had to do it hands-on, they see it happening. It's like you don't have to do a lot of extra flashcards and stuff like that, because it's settling in their brain and they remember it because they took it in and perceived it in the way that stuck with them.
it interested them more and made sense to them more
Mhm.
doing than just on paper?
Right.
Yeah, because with mine, when they think that it's just these numbers and it's so hard to make sense why you would do that, but then when you're making it practical in the kitchen and showing stuff like that, and it's easier.
Mhm. Exactly.
Good.
Exactly.
And so, say for that, then do you feel that you rely more on actually practical teaching that than you do in the books for that? Like, what do you do most, like when it comes to the math?
I have done Christian Liberty books, and I have them do like first and second grade in the books. And then if they want to expand into, algebra themselves, I have the books that they can have access to that if that's what they're interested in. I have the books on the shelf. And if
Oh,
they're
okay.
interested going further into math,
Yeah.
that's fine. I have the resources for that. And reading, of course, is key. And so I take them through the Teaching Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons.
Okay.
I was referred to that with my first one, and they all have learned with that. And some of them are at an earlier age, some are younger. Some have learned at 5. Some it just didn't click till they were 10.
Okay,
But
I've had a couple.
yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't click till 10. But within 2 years, they're reading Lord of the Rings.
Mm,
And that's not a
quite advanced.
little, book. That's a lot of detail. That's a lot of,
Wow.
thought process and stuff like that. That I had a mom encourage me years ago when I was starting the homeschool process. She said, we think in by a certain age you should be reading. But
Yeah.
she said, to be able to get them further ahead, she's found out you need to work with the child. Because some children are more interested in learning hands-on, and they would rather figure out how the motor works on the lawnmower, or why does the lawnmower work like they do, or they're more of an outside person, and so they're, they would rather be out going hunting. They'd rather go walk the 5 miles going hunting with dad, But then there will come a time when they are interested in learning to read. And we just had that with one of our sons lately. He's the one that will walk 5-6 miles with dad, go hunting and never see anything, but then this past year he was like, you know what? Can you teach me to read? I'm like,
Okay.
sure. And it didn't take a whole lot. But now, now one of the other children that's 5 or 6, he's like, yeah, I want to read. And he's like copying words and saying, what does that say? Okay, well, that tells me that child is ready. He's ready to start reading now because.
Okay. Yeah.
Figuring.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's it. It seems like we just froze up a little bit. Are you able to hear me? Uh-oh. I think we just froze a little bit. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Okay. Yeah. Some will be ready to read at an earlier age than others. And I've really noticed that too. So that I liked how you said it doesn't hurt just to kind of wait until they're ready and then they'll pick it up faster. I wished I had known that with one of my very first one, because he did seem ready at 5 years old. Day after he turned 5, I was into the same book as you, 100 Easy Lessons to Teach Your Child to Read. I've used that for all of mine. Plus worked in other stuff, but I guess he wasn't quite ready, and it did take him. He was probably 10 or so before reading really took off for him. But after that, he was reading everything. He loved reading. He's the one that loves to read. Now, the other boys, particularly boys and girls that picked it up faster, are not really into the reading. They don't love reading. But him that struggled loves reading. And he just was reading, and you had to pull him away from his books to go and do something. So,
isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? I think that's awesome. When you can keep that, when they don't feel so stressed out that they have to keep a timeline. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And that was another thing that Rachel DeMille was very adamant about. She said, just trust the process. Just trust the process. Because she said, no matter what happens, just trust the process, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in school, whether it's in, it will happen in its time.
There's not a time frame or an age for that. That's good. That would be really good encouragement, I think, especially for newer moms starting in the homeschool, trying to maybe match school system or trying to have the children learn at the pace of someone else the pace they learned or whatever it might be, and really pushing their child and being stressed out and like, this ain't working, I'm failing. Where like, oh no, you're not. It's just relax. The child will get this in the time they're ready. And so if you can know to do that, like you said, that's good encouragement. Because it would have saved me some stress in the early homeschooling. And for my son, that was hard on him when I would be pushing him so hard, thinking that he should have gotten it, but he didn't get it because he just, they all learn at different paces and everything. I was homeschooled myself, so I should have known already a lot of that just from seeing my mom homeschool. But I was the youngest being homeschooled, so maybe I didn't get to. I was the very youngest of 9. I'm the youngest of 9, and so she homeschooled Not all of them, but some of them a little bit. Some of them were in school, and then she pulled them out, and I was homeschooled completely. Next older brother homeschooled completely.
Oh,
Were just for a couple years. Some were up to the 8th grade, I think, before she pulled them out. But it's something that I knew all my growing up years, like homeschooling is, all I knew for myself, and it's something I wanted for my own children. So I just didn't know how to go about
interesting.
it, but I knew that's what I wanted. So
Interesting. Yeah, I went to a Christian school myself. And then we left that denomination soon after we got married, and we wanted to be able to decide what we wanted for our children to know. And so the first years we had lived in New York, which the rules there are totally different than here.
oh, okay.
And you had to do your testing every year, and you had to send in quarterly reports on what they were learning and stuff. And so it was definitely sort of stressful. So we did school at home, which we did, we tried to take the school schedule and work it at home. So when we moved out here, I was just totally on school burnout.
Yeah.
And so I didn't do any books for a couple years. We'd just go to the library. We go to the library, and they could pick the books that they wanted to read.
Yeah. So you had books in that
And
way, but not curriculum. So that's what you to clarify, right? You didn't have curriculum set out,
no,
like,
no,
but
we didn't have
you
any
would get
workbooks
books
or
that
anything like that.
you would just go and get like books from the library that went with what they were wanting to learn, the interested
Yeah.
to learn from. Is
Yeah.
that correct? Okay.
Yes. So our oldest son, he got into reading Winston Churchill's letters over the time of the war and stuff like that. So, he's now, I suppose, through his interests now, he's sort of like a World War II fanatic, and he loves the history of that era.
Yeah.
And he just loves that, and he's married now, and his dad-in-law has been in the army for quite a few years. They have fun swapping stories
Oh,
and
okay.
things like
Yeah.
that. So it's, that's why you have to decide what you want your child to learn. So, we did that for a couple years, but then I could see that we're not getting into some of the things that they're going to need, like, further in life. Like, we didn't focus so much on the math at that point, and things like that. So after a couple of years, once I was able to, didn't feel so burnt out over school, then we brought in some of the workbooks, and and then we made math. We made math, reading, and for sure. And then, then we can go into these other things, was more science, history. We would watch some things like there's Liberty Kids, which it goes through the history of the Revolutionary War on a more of a more on a child's level. So it's, there's all kinds of avenues. And if you want to get into math, and I didn't really want them to be in books because I didn't want to feel stressed on having to finish the book. There's all kinds of ideas. Like, we learned how to do math with a deck of cards. You just,
Oh, okay.
you take two cards off, you divide the deck in half, and then you play battle with it. So, to do battle, you turn down one card, and whoever's is the highest, they get the set. But for math, you take two cards. So you have to add or subtract or multiply or divide whatever your two cards are, which, you're getting into math, but yet it's not in a book.
Yeah, it's not that like, okay, you got to get on this page, and it's not that fun, or I
Right.
like that.
So there was ways that we still did school and did learning, but it wasn't technically in a workbook. But now I am to the place where we do have, workbooks now. I
Okay.
left this year. I told them, okay, you get to choose. You do math, you do um, reading, and then this year you get to choose, do you want to do history or science? And then next year we'll probably do the other one. So, there's all kinds of ways to do schooling, and you're responsible for your family on how they how you teach them, because when you see yourself equipping them for life instead of just shoving them through a workbook.
I like when you have the bigger picture in mind. I like that.
Right.
We've got some comments. One said, "Hi, I love God." Thank you for leaving us those comments. Yeah, I like that. Man, I have learned a lot in my homeschooling journey now, and just to be more relaxed and trying to see what the big picture, like you said, what is most important, and then just trying to make it more fun, because if they're having a burnout, I'm having a burnout, and then who's and it's been some stressful years. The kids can tell you some older ones. It wasn't fun. I thought you had to do all those subjects every day, and everything. And you're saying, oh, maybe we'll do the science and the history this year and something else or you said the history this year and science. And I realized that too, that a lot of that, we're just kind of doing that in life and learning a lot that way. And then we do utilize like YouTube videos that are educational about the animals, about certain things they want to know more about. If somebody wants to know like about the earthquakes, how does that happen, or different of these things, we can just look it up and watch a documentary on that. And like I said, the documentary of the buffaloes, that was really interesting, and that's history, So there's different ways of learning that. I didn't realize that. I thought this was the only way to learn it. It's in the books. You can get stressed out.
You can. And that's what we've been taught is the only way to do it. But thanks to other parents, for myself, thanks to other parents that have, seen that it still works if you don't follow the traditional way. That gave me a lot of confidence myself that, my children are going to be okay. Right. Right. And they'll learn it. They'll learn it. If nothing else, they'll realize even later, well, you know what? I would really like to do this. And then they go off on their own and figure it out. Like our oldest son, he's now a business owner. He took over my husband's business this spring. And so he's a full business owner all on his own. He's wanted to be self-employed since he's 10 years old. And for us, one way that he came up with this idea that if he buys the chickens from us and the feed, that we would pay him for the eggs. Well, he found out after a while that half of his chickens were gone one night. So he sits up the next night watching to see what it is, because he wanted to take it out, and here was a fox, and he missed it, and it got the rest of the chickens that night and the night after that. So, he got to experience a business idea, the success of a business, but yet also the failure of a business. It's hard. It's hard. And so, they're great job doing it. Yes.
Learning.
Absolutely. So for all our listeners that listen to this, don't judge your value or your child's value by how they're looking toward beside other people. Your child is unique. Your child is different. They have their purpose they were sent for. It may be something they discover that purpose when they're young. It may be something they discover when they're older, but don't put the value of your child on how they compare to other people.
Oh, wow. That's really good.
Also, don't put the value of yourself on how your child is doing compared to other people either. God put you as the best parent for your child. He looked down in the future and said, this person sitting in your chair is the best parent for that child.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So don't judge yourself by how other people are looking or what other people say. You just have to, when other people give you their opinion, which a lot of times isn't asked for,
Mm-hmm.
you just have to like brush it off because
Yeah.
that's not your value system.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you are following what God gave you, right, to do and parent your children. They're from God. And so what you feel that God has wanted you to do. And so then, yeah, you really have to answer to that and be obedient to that. Yeah.
Yes, you do.
And
You do
just do
so.
your best.
And, one day you'll stand before him and give account for what you did. So,
Yeah.
what other people's opinions
Yeah.
doesn't have to be the determining factor of how good you're doing or how bad you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, I know that their walk with God is the most important thing, right? For you. So of
Absolutely.
course, all this other education and stuff we need to make it through life, but their faith that they love
It is.
God. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Oh. So, do
Yes, it
you
is.
kind of have Bible reading in part of your school work, or is that something you do separate? Like every day, do you guys kind of get in the Bible that way, or like
We
next
we
devotions,
don't a lot, but their penmanship is like Bible. We use the Bible as their penmanship. Like they're going through the Psalms right now, so that's their
Oh,
penmanship work.
yeah.
So,
Oh, okay.
even though we necessarily don't have like a Bible class, they're still getting it
Yeah.
in. And sometimes
Yeah.
writing it out gets it in better than just hearing it. But
Yeah.
hearing it is good too. But
Yeah.
there's all kinds of ways you're getting it into them. So that's how I do it is that's their penmanship.
Oh, okay. So you don't necessarily have like a more or
Not no, not
or just
but
a reading
the
to
thing
them.
is when you use Bible, when you use the principles of the Bible all day long,
Mhm.
they're still learning.
Yeah, because that's what you're obviously living out, right?
Right.
That's the
Right.
basis of why you do what you do or you don't. Your kids are knowing why there's certain things they can't do or whatever because of
Right.
yeah, your walk
Absolutely.
with God, right? Mhm.
Absolutely.
Same.
And then when they want to find fault with what you say, you just like, I didn't set the rules. I'm just the person telling you
Yeah,
the
yeah,
principles of life that are set. And so,
yeah,
you can have a problem with me, but, I'm not the one that set the rule.
yeah. In reality, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Because we answer to God. I mean, you got to answer to God when you're parenting and our parenting, right? But we children got to
Absolutely.
answer to God, and He is the one that has set the rules and kind of why, yeah,
Absolutely.
because He loves us.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And he knows, you know, because he's the one that created everything, he knows pretty much the best what principles are going to work.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
really.
it's like, well, you can violate the principles, but you're just going to have the sad consequences at the end, or you
Yeah,
can know you can spend time finding out what are the principles of life. Well, treat other people like you'd like to be treated, or treat other people like they're treating you. It's you get
yeah,
to decide.
yeah. But the other won't work too well for you.
No, no.
All right, that's right.
So anyway,
Well, that's good. Yeah, well, you've talked to us about being intentional in our parenting and the homeschooling and how we can do that without stressing ourselves out, without being burnt out, and just make the atmosphere of learning and showing, I guess, that example too.
yeah, yeah.
That's good.
And one of the things that I found out is try to look how God said, or Solomon said in Ecclesiastes and Psalm, David said, the heavens declare the glory of God. So it's
Oh,
like, if you
wow.
keep noticing the
Yeah.
things around you, you're going to be learning all kinds of things. And then you can choose to pull your children in to learn that lesson that God is trying to show you in whatever's going on around you. Because I spent a couple of days thinking over that psalm. I believe it's Psalm 19. And it says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. And it says, it doesn't have a voice, but yet it teaches us lessons. And I'm like, nature teaches us things. We have to be observant to what's going on. And there are so many lessons. And, God's speaking to us through all this. Are we listening?
That's right. Our ears tuned and into care. Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed our conversation. This is all stuff that I can relate to. Big family, homeschooling, all the stuff. Is there any kind of last things you want to share, or like you have like a podcast thing too, or YouTube channel you want to move through
I
that?
have a on Facebook, TikTok, and on Instagram, I have Hopeful Mom. It's
Oh,
HOPEFULL Mom. It's
okay.
full of hope.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
hopeful.
Oh, wow. I like that.
My
Okay.
TikTok account has a lot more information on than what my Instagram and Facebook ones do.
Yeah.
And so I try to post numerous times in a week on TikTok, and it's just
Oh, okay.
everything from gardening tips to what's happening right now, what I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah.
what I'm learning. And also, my husband and I just wrote a book.
Oh,
It's our book.
family force. Okay.
Yes.
How to do
And
family
it
and
has
business.
a picture of our family on the back. If you
Oh,
want
wow.
to
That's a
meet
big
our
group.
family.
Oh, wow. Well, I didn't know you
So,
would. But cool.
that can be found on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's um about doing family in 3 areas: fun, finances, family, and faith. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
what the book is about. And
Wow.
so,
That's cool. I'll have to get that book. It's like, do you have extra copies on hand if we make it through there?
no, you have to go on
Oh, yeah.
Amazon. We aren't
Okay.
doing like personal shipping. We're just letting everybody go
Yeah.
on Amazon to get it.
Oh, okay. You don't have
But
to.
yes,
Yeah.
follow me on TikTok
Yeah.
and Facebook and Instagram, so you can contact me there. Also, I'm currently pretty much every Sunday I'm doing a series right now on what I have learned and what I wish I would have known as a new mom.
Mm. Okay.
Some of the things with
Yeah.
being our
Yeah.
daughter-in-law just had the baby, and our daughter down in
Okay.
Texas is pregnant.
Yeah.
Now I'm doing a series on, what I really liked about for when a new mom, you need to let yourself take a break. You need to let yourself recover, and, just things like
Oh,
that,
all those
that's a
good,
series
good
I'm
advice.
doing right
Yeah.
now. So
Oh, that's nice. Okay. I will definitely put the links in the description. I'll have to get that from you to share so that they can find that and find your stuff that you've got.
thank you. Thank you. And
Okay.
I try to be very practical because,
Mhm.
I like practical information. And so I'm trying to be practical so everybody can relate to. So also,
You kind of give them the stuff they need, those nuggets that will, well,
absolutely.
not the fluff. Whatever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you again for joining me this evening, and yeah, just all the best to all your parenting and the encouraging of other moms that you do. That's really needed. So, all
Thank
right, and for
you.
everyone
Thank you
else,
for having me here.
yeah, thank you. Welcome, and that everyone else have a good week, and I will be back for another live Monday on the road. I'll be somewhere doing here in Canada, and yeah, so I'll try to keep it up. But all right, have a good week, everybody, and Judith, take care. Okay, maybe I'll get to
You
see
as
you.
well. Safe traveling.
Okay, bye.